I love an opportunity. And I think if I actually look back at it, that's what it gave me. It gave me an opportunity where I could do whatever I wanted to, right? I had, it's a fork in the road. I can make, whatever decision, whether it's immature or I could really step up into like the powerful life force that this is, that I get to foster and I get to be a part of, and I get to be a role model and I get to have a purpose. And that was the direction I took.
Just understand a little bit back to the kind of 15-year-old self that was feeling this lost, that you didn't have a purpose, and then into graduating from high school and then straight into this profession. Tell me a little bit more about like, well, what did that look like to be lost? And, I'm wondering, the shame piece, to have people going to college and you making the decision not to, or didn't feel like you had the, I'll let you insert the words to actually go do something like that. I'm kind of curious just to unpack that a little bit more, to hear more about what that looked like, what that felt like, what that was really like for you. Because I'm sure there's other people out there that, also have had that experience or are having it. So yeah, share a little more.
Ooh, if we're going to go back to those years, I feel like I was crying for help in a lot of different ways. During high school, I was making a lot of decisions that were not great, really getting involved in different crowds where I was just trying to explore possibilities, a lot of numbing, really just kind of like getting lost in like a party scene, really just to check out. I was just doing things that weren't supporting me, but it was like looking for those answers that I was missing. Yeah, I feel like there was always this part of me that just felt like everybody else knew what was going on and everyone else like knew how to be, and I didn't. I felt like for some reason I was just missing something that everyone else did. So I was just constantly searching for that. And like I said, in ways of like creating an outlet for that. So just making a lot of really negative decisions during my younger years in order to find that. And I remember also feeling like, there's these two different crowds that I was running with. One that was like, checking out and just kind of like also in the same, like just we're all looking for some sort of answers. And I didn't really resonate with that group because it was like there wasn't anything there. And then like going back to just like friends at school that I wanted to accept me, but at the same level wasn't really fitting in there. So I was like, I had this great opportunity where I was pretty much friends with everybody at my school. That's the nice thing about being in a small town, is you do know everybody. So you have a ton of different options to like connect with people, and I just didn't have it. So it was just very alienating to feel that. And so, yeah, made a lot of decisions that I look back and go, those were a lot of risks that I was taking during that time, but have complete compassion for like why I was doing those things. And yeah, I could definitely say that it was from where I had nothing but love from my family, probably not a ton of like ongoing support. So just like looking for it, crying for it, like testing the board, like testing the boundaries, right? Like what can I get away with? Also somewhat of a stubborn person. So just being told what to do. A lot of times I rebelled against that also, which led me to, make decisions that I was not supposed to be making anyways.
Right.
But at the end of it, aside from just the job, like I was gifted with the most beautiful opportunity at the age of 19 when I became pregnant. And if that was not the biggest wake up call that I needed to just feel like I had a purpose in this life, like I received it then. And so it was one of those things where I actually gave birth very young, and it gave me everything I was looking for. That was why this career supported me, right? I was like, okay, all of a sudden I'm responsible now, right? Like I have this other life I have to be responsible for. I have this love, right? This like really intimate love that like, yes, I have love for my parents, but like a love from a child is just something that like, you're as a father, you know what that feels like. And it gave me a lot of purpose. So I think that was a big step for me where I went from like feeling like I didn't have purpose to feeling like I know what my purpose is. I can show up now. I'm here to level up. I'm here to like make something of my life.
Gotcha. So you were 19 when you had, is it your
My daughter?
Yeah. And that'll force you to grow up pretty fast and put things in perspective pretty quickly. And it sounds like you embraced that, that it was something that you felt very, drawn to, called to. And yeah, I think, that's what you would hope, but you're 19. So a lot of 19-year-olds might not process it that way. They might be, resentful or, too immature or ill-equipped to actually be a mom. But you stepped into that role pretty quick. It felt like it was like what you were meant to be doing.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, as I look back on it now, the way I think I felt in that I can recognize now is that I love a challenge. I love an opportunity. And I think if I actually look back at it, that's what it gave me. It gave me an opportunity where I could do whatever I wanted to, right? I had, it's a fork in the road. I can make, whatever decision, whether it's immature or I could really step up into like the powerful life force that this is, that I get to foster and I get to be a part of, and I get to be a role model and I get to have a purpose. And that was the direction I took.
And yeah, it's striking to me because I can see how now at this point in your life, how you could process it all that way. You could look at it from this adult place and see how it all served you and how it allowed for you to step up and give you purpose. I'm a little bit just thinking of most 19-year-olds I know. I have kids around that age, and I can't imagine that how you were thinking that way at that time. Was it at all like anything else other than just like, this is it, I'm ready?
No, it gave me a lot of personal pride. Like it was literally like, I remember kind of geeking out the first time I got a house and I was like, did this entire budget, or like got my own place, not a house. Like the first time I rented a place was on my own. I got to like decipher like, okay, this is how much money I make. And these are my responsibilities for my bills. And this is what I have. Like, it actually was very exciting to me. It was very rewarding. I remember feeling that. I remember just almost having this like, this is part of why I rebelled, because I always knew that like I had it within me. I just didn't have the requirement to step up during my childhood years. But as soon as it became like, it's on me, like I am an adult now. Like if I'm not going to college and I'm going to continue that process, like, yeah, I'm an adult now. And I feel like I really did step into it. I remember being excited about those like small little nuances of what responsibility looked and felt like. It actually made me feel really good.
Yeah, great. And was that also then part of the reason why you chose to go into a professional career and not college, or were those two things separate?
I think it was separate. I think like not going into the college career was actually just feeling like it was always the plan. And when I didn't fully have that, like almost like most parents push their kids into that, and that's why they show up for it. And I didn't really have anyone pushing me into it. I just had this like societal norm of like, of course that's what you do. But based on the decisions I was making through high school, when I finally got to like my senior year, it was like, my grades aren't checking out for that. I'm not researching colleges. I don't have anyone pushing me in that direction. And that's when I just started to feel like, oh, I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know what this is going to look like as soon as I graduate and as soon as I, have nothing to lean back on anymore. What is this going to turn into? So I look back and I'm really grateful for that position that I had, that I really was able to step into and grow.
How did that job come to you?
It was my senior year. I was part of a corporate office education program where basically halfway through the day, your senior year, you got to go to an office.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning, it was just an administrative job. Surprisingly, like this amazing company was just like in my small town, and they worked with all these corporations. And so at first it was just like a part-time high school job. And as soon as I graduated, when they knew I wasn't attending college, they asked if I wanted to stay full-time. And I was like, yeah, that's great. So, as soon as I graduated, I immediately walked into a full-time job, immediately moved out, immediately started supporting myself. And it was just sink or swim. It was just like something that actually really excited me, having a purpose after having so many years of just like no idea what was going on. It was something I could step into.
Yeah. I actually just reading a book. It's about a hospice nurse, and she had a similar experience where she got pregnant, I think her freshman year in college. And she was talking a lot about how life changed. And I'm kind of curious about like what it was like now. You go from high school and, party scene, or, under your parents' roof.
Mhm.
Now you have, a child, a job, both at the same time. Was that difficult to be a, young working mother?
Yes and no. I think it was difficult feeling the separation from my peers, so somewhat alienating in that. But my daughter gave me like so much of what I wanted. Like it really truly just gave me like purpose for the first time in my life. So I really leaned into it. I leaned into feeling important in a career, right? Okay, so now they need something done. I did it, right? So it's like I literally just had this like personal recognition and even external recognition that made me feel really good. I had this feeling of responsibility. That feeling of responsibility. I'm a Capricorn, so it's like that. It's like doing those kinds of things like actually like gave me a lot of like pride. And then yeah, having my daughter was just the most beautiful, important thing of my life. I mean, just gave me a sense of purpose that nothing else ever has the same way or probably ever could.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I feel the same way about being a father. I adore my kids. I, loved being a dad from day one. And, when they were little and not sleeping and like requiring a lot, and, that was mostly falling on my wife. And I was trying to figure out my life and career and start a business. Like it was hard, like it wasn't like, yeah, purpose, I loved it and I didn't want to be doing anything else, but it was still very hard.
Yeah.
But I don't hear that from you.
No. And I mean, yeah, I'm sure, I think from the beginning, my mom told me that, the days are long, but the years are short. Right. And I think I embraced a lot of that. So I didn't feel like I struggled with it. I felt like I fully embraced it. It was like what I was meant to be doing. It gave me the purpose I was looking for. I had support from my kid's father. We're not together at the time, but we were together for a very long time. So I had support there. I had support from my family. And just like at my core, like I felt like I had meaning. And I think that's what it was. And I think that lit me up in a way that just kept unfolding into everything thereafter.
Good for you. It's great. Okay. So tell me, you start to feel like you don't have purpose now in this job after having done it for a few years. You're feeling like, what am I doing? What happens? What's next?
So basically just getting to a point of like, I can keep doing this job, but I feel like I'm just going through the motions, right? I'm showing up, I'm doing what I need to do, but I've kind of lost the excitement of digging into things and like providing this next opportunity, this next project, or this next thing that we should be doing, or like really giving direction and really taking ownership of it and just kind of really falling into the routine of it and realizing that like, this isn't what I want to do. Like there's so much more. And I think because of that loss of excitement, started sitting at my desk listening to podcasts. Podcasts were a huge outlet for me because that's the part of it too, is like even though I had all this purpose and I had this love, I was still very alienated because basically after leaving high school, I didn't have a ton of friends, right? So I had my kids, I had my family, but I really didn't have this external circle of friends that I could connect with. I wasn't going out. I wasn't, hanging out. I didn't have that in my life. So it was very isolating where, yeah, I had love through my family, but like there wasn't anything that I was enjoying outside of that. And so I started listening to podcasts and they were a huge pivotal thing for me because all of a sudden I was this fly on the wall for these really thought-provoking conversations of intelligence and ideas and just feeling really excited. I remember just feeling like, how do I find people like this? Like, where are these people, right? Why do they exist in these other cities? And I think it just really started opening up things that I was interested in.
And who were you listening to?
Oh gosh, I think one of the first podcasts I started listening to was the Bulletproof Radio with Dave Asprey. That was a big one for me.
Yeah, I know Dave.
Yeah, so it was, I had some childhood friends that I grew up with that had a very similar walk of life as I did, separated parents. We were very close. And at a young age, they ended up moving out to California where their father lived. And they just started living this explosive life, like this life of purpose, this life of excitement, this life of vision and creation. And they just started showing me, like, I just remember having these thoughts of like, well, if they can do that, then I can do that.
Mhm.
They're the same as I am, right? It actually like brought that so much closer to it, instead of like just hearing it and feeling like, those opportunities are only available to someone else, somewhere else. I saw people that I knew doing that. And so they were huge expanders for me. And I think they brought that feeling closer to home to me, where I was like, I think I can do something. I think I can create something. And similarly, just started exploring, I think once you get down the podcast rabbit hole, you listen to one person, you get really excited about a certain interview and you go start following here and you just go down the rabbit hole. And shortly thereafter, I was listening to a podcast where this hippie came on and just started talking about floating. And I just remember hanging on every word that he was talking about. It was like music to my ears. Everything that he was saying was like, that's what I'm looking for. There is something.
Do you remember who
there.
it was?
It was Kevin Johnson.
Okay.
And so he's been pivotal in the floating community for almost the beginning of the community back in the 80s. And just literally felt everything inside me come alive. I feel like as I was sitting at my desk for a few years, I was just looking for something else, right? Like, what else can I do, right? What excite me? If I'm not in a corporate job, like, what do I do? And I didn't know what that answer was. I didn't have anything else to fall back on. So I was just patiently listening to podcasts, keeping my mind open, like just waiting for something to come to me that would really just like, that I knew would like be my thing. And as soon as I heard like what he was speaking of about it, I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that. I went and had my first float experience. Phenomenal. Really just dropped in to a most amazing state of bliss and awareness, and coming back and just being like, what was that? Where was I just at? I've never experienced that before. What is that? Continue floating, continue to have like an avid practice, had to like drive an hour away just to make it a possibility. And slowly but surely just kind of started researching more about it, just became like a junkie, like listening to podcasts about it. In my old job, I would travel quite a bit. So anytime I'd go to a new city, I'd look up the float center, that was local as soon as possible, go in, always had these incredible experiences, these warm welcomes, everyone there was always like so cool to talk to and open-minded. And you just be in this blissed out state of relaxation and just feeling at peace. So it's just like so different than the way we like operate out of our lives of just like always being available to just being present. It was a really beautiful experience. And just slowly started piecing together like, what would this look like if I did this? And I remember having a pivotal moment of, really taking a look at what I was doing in my career, knowing I wasn't happy, and knowing that like, yeah, I could shake this up a little bit and I could go work for another company, right? That'll be exciting. I'll have new challenges. I'll have like a new, I'll have to like show up again. But I was like, nothing's wrong with the company I work for. I would just be chasing like one thing for another excitement. And in 10 years, that's not where I want to be. So if I actually like just start implementing all of my effort into creating something new, that's where I'll be in 5 years or 10 years or whatever that looks like. And it was probably, in all honesty, like a 4 to 5 year process. So it wasn't a fast turnaround. It wasn't something that, was a snap of the fingers. It was a lot of slow, intentional focus towards something that kept bringing me more and more excitement in my life.